The New Year Honours 2004 were appointments by some of the 16 Commonwealth realms to various orders and honours to recognise and reward good works by citizens of those countries. The New Year Honours are awarded as part of the New Year celebrations at the start of January. The New Year Honours were announced on the 31st of December 2003 in the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Barbados, Bahamas, Grenada, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Tuvalu, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Belize, and Saint Christopher and Nevis. The recipients of honours are displayed as they were styled before the new honour and arranged by the country whose ministers advised the Queen on the appointments, then by honour with grades i.e. Knight, Dame Head Cross, Knight, Dame Commander etc., and then divisions i.e. Civil, Diplomatic and Military as appropriate. Knight's Bachelor, Richard Armstrong, CBE, for services to music, Stuart Bell MP, for services to Parliament, Professor Robert Boyd, for services to medicine, Professor John Michael Brady, FRS, for services to engineering, Professor Alastair Muir Breckenridge, CBE, for services to medicine, John Butterfield, MP, for services to Parliament, R.T. Hon Menzies Campbell, CBE, QC, MP, for services to Parliament, Arnold Clark, for services to automotive industry and to the community in Scotland, David Clementi, for services to the finance industry, Michael Darrington, for services to business and to the community in the North East, Professor John Edwin Enderby, CBE, FRS, for services to science and technology, Professor Martin Evans, FRS, for services to the medical science, Peter Gershon, CBE, David Hatch, CBE, JP, for services to telecommunications, Professor Bob Heppel, QC, for services to legal studies, Derek Higgs, for services to corporate governance and finance, Dexter Walter Hutt, for services to education, Simon Jenkins, for services to journalism, Bernard O'Connell, for services to further education, Jerry Robinson, for services to the arts, John Michael Taylor, OBE, FRS, for services to scientific research, Clive Woodward, OBE, for services to rugby union. Diplomatic Service and Overseas List Harold Evans, for services to journalism, Patrick E. Fermor, DSO, OBE, for services to literature and UK-Greek relations. Order of the Bath, Knights Grand Cross of the Order of the Bath Military Division Royal Navy Admiral Sir Alan West KCB, DSC, ADC, Dame Commander of the Order of the Bath Civil List Mavis MacDonald, CB, Permanent Secretary, Office of the Deputy Prime Minister, Juliet Weldon, CB, QC, HM Procurator General, Treasury Solicitor and Head of Government Legal Service, Knights Commander of the Order of the Bath Military Division Navy Vice Admiral Mark Stanhope, OBE, Army Lieutenant General John Keishley, MC, late Scots Guards, Companions of the Order of the Bath Military Division Royal Navy Rear Admiral John Lippiatt, MBE, Rear Admiral David George Snelson, Army the Venerable John Blackburn, QHC, late Royal Army Chaplaincies Department, Major General Peter Gilchrist, late Royal Tank Regiment, Royal Air Force the Venerable Air Vice Marshal Ronald David Hesketh, QHC, Air Vice Marshal Barry Thornton, Civil Division Harold Vivian Bigley Brown, Chief Executive Export Credits Guarantee Department, Adrian Fosselis, Director of Field Operations, Health and Safety Executive, Jane Elizabeth Henderson, Regional Director, Government Office for the Southwest, John Garvin Hunter, for Public Service. Graham Harold Ben Jordan, Science and Technology Director, Ministry of Defense. Sophia Jane Lambert, Director, Wildlife, Countryside and Flood Management, Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. Peter Renee Lauiner, Director, Learning Delivery and Standards Group, Department for Education and Skills. Robin Rupert Martin, Director, Tax Law Rewrite Project, Inland Revenue. Colin John Merle, Director, Macroeconomics and Labour Market, Office for National Statistics. John Winston Roddick, QC, Counsel General, National Assembly for Wales. James Scudamore, Chief Veterinary Officer and Director General for Animal Health and Welfare, Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. Edward John Weeple, Head, Lifelong Learning Group, Scottish Executive. Diplomatic Service and Overseas List. Michael Leah Haygarth Doyle, Director for Policy and Resources, GCHQ. Order of St. Michael and St. George. Knights Grand Cross of the Order of St. Michael and St. George. RT Hon. Lord Robertson of Port Ellen, PC, NATO Secretary General. Knight Commander of the Order of St. Michael and St. George Civil Division. Michael Anthony Arthur, CMG, High Commissioner, India. David Edward, CMG, QC, Judge of the Court of Justice of the European Communities. John Adrian Fortescue, LVO, Director General for Justice and Home Affairs, European Commission. Michael Wood, CMG, Legal Advisor, Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George Military Division. Army Brigadier Stephen Frederick Sherry, OBE, late Corps of Royal Engineers. Civil Division. Julian Filochowski, OBE, Director, Catholic Agency for Overseas Development. Professor John Beddington, FRS, for Services to Fisheries Science and Management, especially in the South Atlantic. Roger Cashmore, for Services to International Cooperation in Particle Physics. Edward Chaplin, CMG, OBE, Director Middle East and North Africa, Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Alistair Crook, for Services to the Advancement of the Middle East Peace Process. Christopher Nigel Dolly, lately Special Advisor on Central and East European Affairs to the NATO Secretary General. Marvy Elton George, OBE, Deputy Governor, British Virgin Islands. Monica Celia Harper, HM Consul General, Lille. Peter Johnston, Governor, Anguilla. Ian Arthur Gray Matthewson, Consulate, Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Simon Gerard MacDonald, H.M. Ambassador, Israel. Ronald Peter Nash, LVO, HM Ambassador, Afghanistan. Terence Facey, Chief Executive, LEPRA, and lately President, International Federation of Anti-Leprosy Associations. Royal Victorian Order. Knight Commander of the Royal Victorian Order Sir Frederick Donald Gosling, for Services to the Duke of Edinburgh's Award and the Outward Bound Trust. Commander of the Royal Victorian Order David Hubert Boothby, Cheshire, L.V.O., formerly Secretary of the Order of the Garter. Rowena, Mrs. Fielden, LVO, Lady-in-Waiting to the Princess Royal. Michael James Kingshott, Trustee, the Duke of Edinburgh's Award. The Honourable Priscilla Jane Stephanie, Lady Roberts, L.V.O., Librarian and Curator of the Print Room, Royal Collection, Windsor Castle. Caroline Mary, Lady Ryder, M.B.E., formerly Trustee, the Duke of Edinburgh's Award. Honorary Michael Glover, formerly Trustee, the Duke Edinburgh's International Award Association. Lieutenant of the Royal Victorian Order Sir William Martin Castell, formerly Chairman, the Prince's Trust. Ewan Warren MacDonald Kernow, Veterinary Surgeon of the Royal Studs. Dr. Thomas Robert Evans, Honorary Physician to the Queen. Robert David Keim, for Interior Design Services to the Prince of Wales. Miss Hilary Jane Neal, Information Officer, Government News Network. John Scott, organist and director of music, St Paul's Cathedral. Honorary Jetmond Engusset, a formerly surgeon to the royal household in Scotland. Member of the Royal Victorian Order Robert Andrew Ball, clockmaker, Royal Collection. Keith Roy Banham, farm manager, Sandringham Estate. Miss Julia Ann Crowhurst, secretary to the superintendent, Windsor Castle. Sarah Louise, Mrs. Darling, rural campaign manager, business in the community. George William Arthur Freston, secretary, council of photographic news agencies. Andrew Hamilton, consultant to the Duchy of Cornwall. Colleen Lorraine, Mrs. Harris, a formerly press secretary to the Prince of Wales. Pamela Ann, Mrs. Hopes, secretary to the Dean of Windsor. Tom George Stewart McCaw, Land Steward, Eastern District, Duchy of Cornwall. Andrew Davison Moyer, OBE, visitor manager, Windsor Castle. Laurie Ann, Mrs. Morris, senior aide, Office of the Governor-General, Government House, Canberra. Cecil John Nelson, R.V.M., senior coachman, Royal Mews. Sergeant Colin Trevor Vaughan Payne, Metropolitan Police. For services to royalty protection, Sergeant Peter Wadman, Metropolitan Police. For services to royalty protection, Eric George West, heraldic artist to the Royal Mews. John Graham Woodrow, Finance Director, Ascot Authority. Royal Victorian Medal. Bar to the Royal Victorian Medal Nancy, Mrs. Fenwick, R.V.M. for services to the Queen. Michael Norris, R.V.M., Groom, Pearlhampton Stud. Royal Victorian Medal David John Peter Baldwin, Sergeant of the Vestry, Chapel Royal, St James's Palace. Andrew Chambers, Head Warden, Crown Estate, Windsor. Gary James Coutts, Stalker, Balmoral Estate. Messenger Sergeant Major William Anthony Davis, M.B.E., the Queen's Bodyguard of the Yeoman of the Guard. Charles Christopher Harding, Woodman, Crown Estate, Windsor. Andrew Hawkes, first chauffeur, Royal Mews. Andrew Joseph Hitchman, valet to the Duke of York. Frank Ronald Jones, fire surveillance officer, Windsor Castle. Robert Jones, Gardener, Crown Estate, Windsor. Constable Norman Angus Gow MacLean, Metropolitan Police. For services to royalty protection, John Mould, Gardener, Hampton Court Palace. David Richard Palfrey, Kitchen Porter, Royal Household. John Alexander Perkins, Supervisor, Jewel House, H.M. Tower of London. Myrtle Maid, Mrs. Simpson, Upholsteress, Royal Household. Cecil Raymond Smith, Country Park Worker, Sandringham Estate. Miss Elizabeth Maud Wilkinson, Groom, Royal Studs, Hampton Court. Order of the British Empire. Knights, Dames Grand Cross of the Order of the British Empire Civil Division Sir Cyril Julian Hebden Taylor. For services to education, Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire Civil Division Alexandra Vivian, Mrs. Burslem, O.B.E., J.P., Vice-Chancellor, Manchester Metropolitan University. For services to higher education, Professor Sandra June Noble Dawson, Director, Judge Institute of Management Studies, University of Cambridge, Master, Sydney Sussex College. For services to higher education and management research, Joan Irene, Mrs. Harbison, C.B.E., Chief Commissioner, Equality Commission for Northern Ireland. For services to equal opportunities, Pauline, Lady Harris. For charitable services, especially in education and health, Ms. Patricia Ann Hodgson, C.B.E., lately Chief Executive, Independent Television Commission. For services to broadcasting, Elizabeth and Mrs. Hoodless, C.B.E., Chief Executive, Community Service Volunteers. For services to volunteering, Rabbi Julia Babette Sarah Neuberger, Chief Executive, King's Fund. For services to the NHS and other public bodies, Ms. Joan and playwright, C.B.E. actress. For services to drama, Ms. Jane Elizabeth Roberts, leader, Camden Council. For services to local government, Gail, Mrs. Ronson. For charitable services, especially to Jewish Care and the Royal Opera House. Commander of the Order of the British Empire Military Division Royal Navy Commodore Andrew James Gilded Miller Royal Navy. Captain Patrick John Walker Royal Navy. Army Colonel Peter Davies, late Royal Regiment of Wales. Colonel Thomas Michael Fitzalan Howard O.B.E. late Scots Guards. Brigadier Christopher Glyn Sheridan Hughes O.B.E. late the Staffordshire Regiment. Major General James Michael Shaw M.B.E. late Royal Corps of Signals. Colonel Stephen Owen Thomas, late Royal Regiment of Artillery. Brigadier Donald Ruthven Wilson, late Black Watch. Royal Air Force Group Captain Mark Colland Green, Royal Air Force. Air Commodore Richard Howard Lacey, Royal Air Force. Air Commodore Brian Thomas Morgans, Royal Air Force. Civil Division Dr. Maureen Baker for services to medicine. Officer of the Order of the British Empire Military Division Royal Navy Army Royal Air Force Civil Division Colin Johnson, Chief Executive. Techniquest Jean Venables, Member of the Order of the British Empire Military Division Royal Navy Army Royal Air Force Civil Division James Summers Hamilton Johnston MBE. Simon Wayne Tudor MBE. For charitable services, Royal Red Cross. Royal Red Cross Army Major John Clark. Queen's Volunteer Reserves Medal, Army Major Mark Brotherston. Royal Air Force Sergeant Terence Morton. New Zealand. New Zealand Order of Merit.